You need to listen to this message if you have been stuck in a rut and can't seem to get out of it. You are part of a collective of people that is being referred to as the Pearl Collective. You're a group of people who alchemize experiences into beautiful transformations. But the problem is that you get stuck on the how and the why of it happening. So, when you get stuck on the how and the why of it happening, you can't alchemize the experience properly. Like sometimes you spit out the grain of sand that is meant to alchemize that experience. Like in this weird way, like you reject the thing that is meant to be your blessing, even though it feels like a curse, even though it feels like an impediment. And then when you do that, you're just going to be given another quote unquote blessing later. You're going to get another grain of sand. Only this time you have to start all over again. This is the analogy that's coming through for why your spiritual progress has slowed in certain areas and why your life is like your progress on life is slowed in certain areas because you're rejecting the process. You have to realize that it's actually an intentional part of the journey to have things bother you. It's actually an important core theme to your life that there have been experiences that like tripped you, that caused problems for you, that hurt you and caused you pain. Because the point is that once you alchemize that experience, and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 on my timer, you can transform and level up so much more quickly and efficiently than you have been. But the problem is that as you keep like rejecting these sort of half-baked, half-formed scenarios because you're not seeing the end vision, the end goal, you're going to keep encountering them. You're going to keep experiencing them. For example, you want to start a business, but you find yourself running into a million roadblocks. You're like, I don't know taxes. Oh, I don't know finances. I don't know how to get my supplies. I don't know how to do this program. I don't know how to teach people. I don't know how to like you get really tripped up on these things that are causing you pain. But the point is that like you're going to have to start this business. You're going to actually have to alchemize those fears. You're going to have to practice on yourself, becoming empowered and teaching these things to yourself. Then you can teach them to other people. Like you want the business to be handed to you, but the problem is that it's not going to be handed to you. If it's handed to you, you're not going to be able to handle it. Does that make sense? The things that you can handle are all things that have been handed to you. So people who speak from a point of like narcissistic abuse survivors, they understand it. They know it because they lived it. Imagine someone trying to speak on narcissistic abuse that hasn't been through it. Would you trust that person or not? Right? I suppose it is possible people could become very educated and give good feedback on that, but I would 100% trust someone with a lived experience of narcissistic abuse who broke out, survived, researched, educated themselves, and then became empowered. I would trust them with no credentials over a bachelor's degree or master's degree, or heaven forbid, a PhD that had studied all these years, like in clinical psychology and therapy, about narcissistic abuse. Because what textbooks label as a profession or like a symptom or a disease or a mental condition is often so far from the truth of it. Like I'm getting this download of you know how doctors ask you to describe your symptoms and you'll give them like 4 or 5 symptoms and they're like, okay, that only rules out 3 things. What about these? And then they'll keep asking things and keep like diagnosing based on the information you give them. But like weird example, but diarrhea, for instance, you're having that. There's a lot of things that could cause that. So it's not enough just to say, like, oh, this is what I'm experiencing. They're like, okay, did you have any diet changes recently? Have you been drinking a lot of liquids? Have you been on any new medication? Right? They have to like run through all these things to try and figure out what it is. Sometimes when people like label spiritual narcissism, they're like, oh, did they do this textbook behavior? Did they do this textbook behavior? Did they do that? And in reality, like it's not this like perfectly, I'm thinking of a pie chart that has these even distributions of like 10% this and 10% that, 5% gaslighting and 5% physical, abuse, or like it's not so clean, right? So anyway, this is all important because as a pearl, and really like you again, it's like the Pearl Collective, and you're kind of performing more the function of a clam and oyster, not to call you a clam or an oyster, but your goal is to make pearls. Your goal is to do the alchemy process. Your goal is to transmute pain and suffering like into profit, basically, into blessings and abundance. You can't do that if you keep rejecting the pearl. And I'm getting like the pearl is like trigger warning, but like the abuse you survived. The pearl is the unpleasant truth that you realize. The pearl is your wasted time. The pearl is your ruined projects. The pearl is your half done like audience members that like you don't really know who you're speaking to. Like the pearl is your messy home. All of that is your pearl. Do you kind of see that? Like you have so much beauty and it's not fully formed or finished yet. So that's why it's really hard for you to see that it's a blessing and that it's going to be beautiful, because you're still in the thick of it. It's still being created. Like it's not ready to be harvested. And you have to just keep sticking with it and keep coating layers upon layers upon layers of this. Um, Excuse me, having a burp here. And it's just really hard. Like collective, I feel like there are times you want to give up because it's so difficult. And also, I'm being shown images of different colored pearls. I don't, and I'm seeing 555 in the timer. So you got big change coming in. Sometimes collective, the pearl that you're alchemizing is a green pearl. Sometimes it is a black pearl. Sometimes it's a white pearl. Sometimes it is a like a pink one or like a yellow undertones. Like there's all these different colors of pearls. And you you have to imagine that you're like this pearl connoisseur. You have to learn how to celebrate this diversity of pearls. You may be like making a white necklace, for instance, but you alchemize a black pearl, and you have to learn like to find the right seller and buyer for that, if that makes sense. Like your black pearl has value. It's not unvaluable simply because you're prioritizing the white pearls. It has value because it is highly desirable, actually pretty rare, and to the right collector, right person, they will pay a lot of money for it. So there's some gifts you have, there's some experiences you have that are really truly unique, but they are very like profitable. They are very like getting a lot of words coming through, basically important experiences, right? So don't just throw something out simply because it alchemized in a way that's weird or different. You need to remember that everything has value. You just may not know the right seller, right buyer yet. Okay. So yeah, you're like the distributor, you're the creator and distributor of these things. You're not necessarily the end line consumer. So you're actually not in the best position to determine the market value in a negative way. Say like, oh, it's not worth that much, because you don't know that. Do you know how many people would pay for a piece of what you have? There's a lot of people that would pay a lot of money for things that you have. But if you keep devaluing yourself, people are literally going to think you have fake pearls. Like it's a really specific analogy coming through, but like if I showed you a $10 pearl necklace and a $100 pearl necklace, and they're made from the same pearls, but which do you think has more value? Which do you think a person energetically will appreciate more? That $10 pearl necklace, it may be the same pearls as the $100 one, but because it's dressed up differently, right? Because it demands a higher investment of energy going into it. Or the $100 one does, rather. The $10 one's probably going to be treated kind of poorly. Like the person might leave it on while they shower, while they sleep. Like they might go out and do all their errands and business in it, and it might not be thought of as nice jewelry. But that $100 one will be thought of very well, because it's like, wow, I spent like $100 on this. I'm going to really cherish it. I'm going to really treasure it. So do you see how it actually is so immaterial what your perceived value of something is? It's all about finding the right person and the right cherishing energy. There is someone out there who will cherish the energy of your projects. You're just not aware, excuse me, of all of those people just yet, because you've kind of surrounded yourself with like $10 bracelet sellers or $10 necklace sellers, and you need to start surrounding yourself with people who appreciate more expensive things, more exclusive things. And it doesn't have to be necessarily in a monetary context, but the value that people put on these things is more. I'm getting you have a lot of experiences that you've devalued. And because you're so close to them and you downplay yourself, like it's like worth less. You feel it's worth less because it was something you could do. But you actually need to think that the things are worth more because you have that experience. And more than that, you've had a plethora of experiences that all kind of add up together to create an understanding. It's one thing when someone's a specialist in a specific area, but it's another when they're a specialist in multiple areas, because it makes them like even better than AI. Like they're able to alchemize and like draw connections between these different topics in ways that are really informative and creative, right? Like if I here's a weird example. If I make bird nests, I don't know why this is coming to mind, but if I made bird nests, I'm a professional bird nest maker, bird house maker. And then I also do jewelry. It's weird, but I could make jewelry that looks like bird nests. I could make jewelry that's like little bird houses. I could make little house decorations, like little out of metal and gold that like look like bird homes or bird nests, right? So even though jewelry making and bird house or bird nest making don't on the surface seem similar at all, do you see how you can like create something really unique out of it? And it makes this experience for someone seeing it go, oh, wow, this seems really interesting. I would like jewelry that's a little bird nest. That seems really cute. Like little metal wires kind of intertangled, a couple little eggs. I actually saw a nest like that once. It was, or like a jewelry that was a bird nest. It was really cool. Two little eggs in it or three. Um, so yeah, you can alchemize these things in a really beautiful and interesting way. But you have to start seeing yourself as an expert in different areas. And I hear sometimes you think you're only an expert in like one or two, maybe three areas, but you have many. Um, but you're just not giving yourself the label of expert because you're comparing yourself to other experts who don't specialize in other areas. So let's say you're a person that only does tea. Collective, you may think that that person has more knowledge of tea than you do, and they might, but you actually could be classed in the same category of expert as them, because once you hit a certain threshold of knowledge on a subject, you know more than 99% of the population, and it doesn't matter if you're the 0.001% or you're the 0.01% or you're the 0.1%. As long as like you're in the top 1%, you're an expert. So you need to kind of lower your like degrade your levels to a reasonable level. Like you're an expert in so many fields and you just pretend like you're not an expert because you want to appease people and you don't want to seem like you've got your hand in every pot. But you kind of do. Like you have 20 or 30 things, I'm getting, like most of you listening have 20 or 30 things you're extremely nichely knowledgeable about. Maybe this is like cooking, maybe these are hobbies, maybe it's animals, maybe it's a craft, maybe it's a job. Like literally think about it. Like if you had a job where you learned a certain skill set, like if you were a manager, if you were a trainer, if you worked with computer systems, if you did sales, there's like 5 skills you could think of that you're probably very well educated, knowledgeable about, and good in just your day job. Now look at your hobbies. Now look at like what your family does for traditions. Now look at what things your friends do. Of like maybe you know a bunch of musical artists. Maybe you understand musical composition without even having like been to school for it. That's a specific thing coming through. Like you just understand the cadence of music, even though you've never made it. You just automatically have that skill because of past life stuff, right? I'm getting huge chills. You have so many pearls that you don't even realize are pearls because your mind is like, it's only a pearl if it's white. But you have so many different colored like gems and pearls that you need to start seeing for the gems that they are. And in order to do that, we have to return back to the beginning of this channeling, which is realizing the alchemy process of creating that pearl is you can't reject the experience that creates the pearl. There's no pearl if you reject the sand grain. Okay, maybe that's like a slogan. Like no grain of sand, no pearl. If you've heard of like no mud, no lotus. So yeah, you gotta get your head around that. And I know it's kind of a weird message, but yeah, that's what's coming through pretty strongly for this collective. I'm gonna see if there's anything else. Okay, that seems like it's it. There's a shorter one today. So sending you guys so much love and best of wishes on your journey. I'm sure it's going amazing. Please drop a like, subscribe, follow along if this content is interesting to you, if this channeling resonates for you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.